Nikhil, please do not record at this moment. Okay, you start recording when we start.
Many of you, okay. So I know many of you are students from the college, and many of you may be working in some company. So my intention in giving this program is to make you understand how a drilling engineer works. Okay, what is drilling engineer's perspective, and what is the management of killing of a well? What is management of well control? Not only merely techniques and ways of doing it, the main thing is how the whole thing is being approached by a good drilling engineer or drilling supervisor or in charge of the rig, right? How they work together, how they play different roles, and how cumulatively they handle the problem. This is what my intent in putting across this program is. Okay. And I again welcome you all on this program. So we will talk on very fundamental things first, and slowly we will go to the deeper parts. And my intent is that after the program, this well control issue, even if you are not very much related to it, should be somewhat understandable, as understandable thing to you, so that you can understand exactly what happens and exactly what is being done. If you are in petroleum industry, even if you are in reservoir or production department, or you are a geologist, so it means to everybody, whoever is in petroleum industry, to know little bit at least about well control. So we have chosen this. After this session, there will be question answers, and you can ask any questions on well control or even drilling, and we will share in that question answer, and that will clarify if there is any doubt. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen with you, my screen, and I'm coming to the PPTs. Do you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I actually your screen is
Okay.
visible, but presentation is not visible.
Okay, presentation will come. Now it is okay.
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
Okay. So, okay, my name is Vipin Balla, and was with ONGC for around 25 years. I have worked in Bombay High for around 12 years, and then I was in other regions of ONGC. After that, I was with Kuwait Oil Company for some time as a drilling supervisor. After that, I was with ADNOC also for quite some time. And finally, I was with Petroleum Development of Oman, which was associated with Shell. So then I became a well control instructor. I teach well control different parts of the world. I have been to North America, Europe, Aberdeen, Denmark, Malaysia, and many other places. So I'm basically a well control instructor. Also, I teach sometimes stuck pipe prevention courses also. So this is my area of work or expertise. So this is a very small capsule of well control to give you an idea about how well control works. In this program, we will be discussing the causes of cakes. First, there will be a basic introduction, then causes of cakes, what is primary, secondary, and tertiary well control, what is blowout preventer stack, and what are other equipment which are involved in well control, kick detection system, and then finally, what are the methods of killing a well. If we look at what is well control? Well control is not to allow, see, when we are drilling a well and we are drilling into very high pressurized formations. So what is stopping those high pressurized formation fluids to come into our well? Of course, if they come into our well, there will be some obstruction. Our job is to drill with mud and keep drilling. And if some fluid from the formation comes into our well, that can be an obstruction, and we don't want that. And when we are drilling a well, who is stopping them to come into the well? That is a question. What is
Sir,
that element
sorry for
which is
interruption, sir.
not allowing?
Sorry for the
Tell
interruption.
me.
Can you switch off your video? I think
Yeah,
the
yeah.
voice is breaking. Voice
Oh,
is
yeah,
breaking.
the audio will become better. Voice
Yes,
is breaking. Yeah. Okay, I'll do
yes.
that.
It's a very interesting topic. Okay, so I get a message in chat box. The voice is breaking. So
Yeah, thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Okay.
okay. So our now it may be better, right?
Yes, sir. Like better from previous one.
Better. Oh, it will be slowly better. Okay. So now the question is, when we are drilling a hole and we are drilling at very deep depth and there is a high pressure zones, and now there is a gas or oil maybe in that zones, and that should not come into our well. And what is the element which stops that to come into the well? What is that which is helping us to drill smoothly without interference of the formation fluids coming into the well? That is the first question. If I hope most of you know that answer to that question, and that is our drilling mud. What is in drilling mud? That we keep the drilling mud density in such a way that the pressure it exerts at the bottom of the well should be at all times more than the formation pressure.
Yes,
That is the strategy. That is the main point. That is why if you go on to the rig, after every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, there will be some person measuring the mud weight or the density of the mud which is going in, and what is the density of the mud which is coming out, and density is kept under control so that no formation fluid should enter the well. So this is very, very important. So this mud is acting as a primary barrier to the formation fluids, not to let them enter into the well and interrupt our drilling process. And well control is not allowing these formation fluids to enter the well, number one. And if suppose they have entered, in a controlled way, taking them out. That is well control. And also to ensure that our well has the required density of the mud, so that further as we drill, no formation fluids should enter. And if the formation fluids enter and we don't take care of them, they can result in a blowout. And that is the job of a drilling engineer, not to let the blowout happen, not to let a such accident or incident happen. And these incidents do happen. You might have seen even some lately there was there was a well control issue in Bagjan's area in Assam. So what they did was they were doing a cementing. They made a one zone and they cemented it, and then they removed the BOP and they were working, and there was a blowout, and it took 3-4 months to control that. So there are small things, there are small elements which are ignored, and a blowout happens. We will see to it what are those small elements which, if taken care, we can avoid a very difficult situation called blowout. Remember, the tree of blowout comes from a very small seed, and if we handle that seed, we can avoid a big situation like blowout. Common man, common drilling engineer, tool pushers, drillers, drilling engineers can do that. That is this program is all about. Okay, so as I said, your mud, because of its density, is creating a hydrostatic pressure at the bottom of the well, which should be always kept more than the formation pressure. And if it is so, we are safe. This is called primary barrier. And this is a small calculation at the bottom, which can be used to know how much hydrostatic that mud is exerting at the bottom of the well. Now, as I said, your mud hydrostatic should be always more than the formation pressure. And if it is less, that means you are under balance and there is a possibility of a kick. Kick means influx or formation fluid entering into the well and create problems for you. What is secondary well control? Suppose some influx for some reason, your mud density was not sufficient. Maybe you are drilling a well into a formation which was much more higher formation pressure than the density of mud which you have chosen. So naturally, formation fluids will enter the well. Now what should be your action? If suppose you don't do anything, that formation fluids, which can be gas, will come into the well, go migrate up, expand, and throw all your muds out of the system and create a blowout situation. And to save from that, we have another element which is BOP. That is the secondary element which can help us control a well control situation once our mud has failed. So mud was our primary barrier, and secondary barrier, if suppose mud fails, is our BOP system, which can be called a secondary well control barrier. If suppose BOP fails, or you are dismantling BOP like they did in Baghdad, which was not a correct method. So BOP is not there, number one. BOP, you put it into action, it did not get into action. There may be some leakage in some line, BOP rubber elements may be worn out, or any reason. BOP did not close. If it does close, then there will be a blowout. And to control that, then tertiary methods are used, like did some capping arrangement, like many experts come for that, and they will be try to cap area with certain equipments, cranes and many equipments, and then they will try to control that. And even if that fails, they may drill another well at a distance and make that well meet this well and try to push a very heavy mud into this well and try to control, which is called a relief well. So this is a little difficult, so I'll not go much into it. I'll make it simpler. So this is called tertiary well control, which is used when blowout has happened and you are to control that. It may take 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. Okay, so these are the barriers. As I said, primary is your mud in the well, and secondary is the BOP system with other allied equipments. And these barriers should be from time to time tested. If you don't test them and if you don't ensure they are okay, they are no more barriers. If suppose you don't measure your mud weight and it's not maintained in the way it needs to be maintained, it's not a barrier. If your BOP system is not tested properly time to time, you cannot assume it to be a barrier. So the kick is formation fluids entering into the well is kick. Formation fluids uncontrolled way coming out at the surface in an unwanted, uncontrolled way is blowout. And I have seen certain difficult situations when well is blowing, it is blowing gas, and I was in Bombay High, I have seen blowout, a small kick, which was turned into a difficult situation. Like gas comes and then there are some sand, stones, everything falls out of the well with a great force, and there can be fire after some time, and a very difficult situation to handle. Okay. So our job is to remain overbalanced. Overbalance is keeping the mud weight more than mud weight and the hydrostatic pressure at the bottom because of the density of the mud. That pressure of the mud at the bottom always more than the formation pressure. That is our strategy. But sometimes you may go under balance. You may not be able to maintain a higher mud weight at the bottom. Maybe you may drill into a formation which may be unexpectedly more pressure than your mud density. So then formation fluids will come in and you will get a kick. Or now, why such abnormal pressures are there in the formation? So we should be careful about such pressures which formations may have, that they may come into the well and create problems for us. That is why we should give some intention and some attention to what type of reasons create the abnormal pressures in the formation, and what is normal and what is abnormal and what is subnormal. What is normal is if the pressure in the formation is because of the saline water. See, all the formations, they have saline water in it. Those pores, these formations are sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks have pores in them. These pores are also interconnected, and these pores are filled with generally saline water of density, say approximately 8.9 or around 9 pound per gallon density. And if the formation is filled with this type of saline water, that will create a gradient of 0.465, and if that is the condition, it will be a normal formation. But if your formation has a pressure of a gradient more than 0.465 for some reason, that will be called abnormal, and if it is less than that, then it will be called subnormal. Now, why that abnormal pressure formations occur? If we know that, then we can be careful while drilling that we may be entering a abnormal formation zone, right? See, I am drilling an exploratory well. So in exploratory well, you don't know what type of formation you are going to encounter. Of course, geoseismic surveys have given some data, and it's a wildcat well. You don't know what you are going to encounter, what type of pressures will be there. There may be abnormal pressure. So we should know what are the characteristics of the abnormal pressure, why they occur, where they occur, what will be the symptoms, so that a drilling engineer can be awake and he can monitor and he can catch the abnormal pressure zones before they catch him. So one of the reasons is undercompaction of the shale. Why undercompaction of the shale happens is at the time of sedimentation, if by geological movements a high pressure is created in the fluids at the bottom, and those fluid at high pressure doesn't get chance to deplete themselves out because of some impermeable formations above them. Like high pressure fluid, the fluids at the formation below in the earth strata at certain depth may get a high pressure because of certain earth movements and geological reasons. Now that pressure at the of the that fluid, if it gets a chance to escape up, then it will become normal. If it get a chance to escape out, but sometimes they are eclipsed by a impermeable rock. So those high pressures fluids, they don't get a chance to escape out because of the impermeable cover which sometimes they have, and that is why those high pressure formation fluids get trapped under a impermeable layer of shale or something. So that is one of the reasons for high abnormal pressures, and 90% of the wells in the world are high pressure, abnormally high pressure, because of this reason, this impermeable layer of shale covering a high pressure fluid at the bottom, not allowing it to escape out. There are other small reasons which are not that common as the first one, that is artesian effect, like you are drilling at the valley and the formation connection up on the hill. So pressure they are getting from the up of the hill, and you are drilling only from the valley. So your depth from the valley may be 2, but formation fluids are getting their depth from the hill, top of the hill, maybe 5,000. So their pressure has developed from the 5,000, and you are drilling and your depth is only 2,000. So this is called artesian effect when you are drilling in a valley and formation fluids are getting their pressure from the top of the hill. Also, sometimes there are certain anticlines with a gas in it, and when you enter that gas zone, which is cupped in an anticline, at that gas cap, you may encounter high pressure. This is one of the reasons for high pressure. Another reason can be there can be some other wells in the vicinity which may have a poor cementation, and high formation pressures of the well get connected with the low pressure area, and it may charge, and when you drill a well, the other well high pressure zones get exposed and you may get high pressure, abnormally high pressure. So these are few reasons why abnormally high pressures can be there, and a driller job or drilling engineer's job is, with the help of mud logging system and with the help of other sensors, with the help of other monitoring systems, to catch the occurrence of such abnormal pressure before it happens and before you get a kick. That is the job of a drilling engineer. Or sometimes you may have a subnormal pressure also, because of certain depleted zones, they get depleted and the pressure in those zones reduce. Okay, so this is about abnormal pressure. This is one reason. Abnormal pressure was one reason why you can get a kick, because you may not be ready for it. Your mud density may not be appropriate for it, and you suddenly encounter abnormal pressure and you are not prepared for it and you get a kick. Second thing is that your mud density may be not controlled properly, or your level in the string in the well may fall for some reason. There can be a mud loss, and the mud volume in the well may get lost into the lost circulation, and your level will fall, and that may induce a kick. Okay, so you need to ensure that your well is always full of mud, so that that mud density can create a hydrostatic at the bottom, which can handle the formation fluids pressure. Okay, so bottom hole pressure of the mud density, that hydrostatic pressure is very, very important to be maintained to ensure no kick occurs, unless some very high formation pressure formations are encountered. Now we will see how to ensure that we catch the abnormally high pressure zones before they strike us with a kick. Okay, now how a kick can occur. Maybe suppose your bit is worn and you want to pull out a bit and change the bit. Let us analyze every situation which can create a kick. I am drilling, my mud density is good enough, no kick is coming, hydrostatic of the mud density is more than the formation pressure, everything is fine, we were drilling, and suddenly my bit is not drilling anymore. Okay, I want to pull out my bit. I slowly starting pulling out to change my bit. When I am pulling out, I may be pulling very fast, or my bit may be clogged with the cuttings, and it may act as a piston, and like a piston, it may suck the formation fluids into the well. So that type of sucking, like a piston, when you pull out of the well your string, that can swab in formation fluids in, and that can be a kick. Or there can be a kick like swabbing, and when you want to know whether the kick is there or not, and you will circulate the well, and when that kick will come up, it will expand, because the pressure at the top is less than it is at the bottom. So if it is expanding, it will invite more kick. Or if there is a lost circulation, then your hole is getting empty because of the lost circulation, and that mud which you require to create a density and hydrostatic pressure to maintain the formation pressure is no more available to you because it is getting lost. So that can also create a kick situation. So these are the things one need to be careful as a drilling engineer. Okay, now comes the important part. How kick can be prevented. So a drilling engineer should be monitoring all the parameters and observing the cuttings, observing well footing, observing pressures, observing the gas content of the mud which is coming out, and he should ensure the hole should be full. If there is a loss, that should be detected. By this good monitoring, he can probably help himself not to get trapped in the kick. Okay. This is what mainly I wanted to communicate. We are drilling an exploratory well, and we don't know whether there will be high pressure formations or not. We are unaware. We have some idea about the geology from the seismic data. It is a wildcat well, so not much is known. We are drilling in an unknown domain. So how will you know whether you are going to encounter or you are approaching a very high pressure zone? So these are the symptoms. One symptom is that your rate of penetration, the drilling rate, may increase suddenly when you encounter a high pressure zone. Generally, those zones are more porous and they are at high pressure. When they are at high pressure, they throw the cuttings which you are cutting with the bit out up in the mud stream very soon, and your drilling rate increases. So if your drilling rate unexpectedly increase, you should be careful. If your drilling rate ROP unexpectedly increase, be careful, be watchful. Number one. There may be that may be a porous high pressure formation zone. Second thing, you need to observe your torque, your drag. When you're drilling, when you're rotating, you will be observing certain torque. If your torque and drag increases, be careful. Generally, a good drilling engineer, when he is drilling, is monitoring all these parameters. He's monitoring rate of penetration of the bit, he's monitoring torque, he's monitoring pressures, he's monitoring drag, he's monitoring everything. And a mud logging system, they are monitoring their parameters. So if you find the rate of penetration increases unexpectedly, if you find your torque is unexpectedly changing its trends, then be careful. Another point, there is another segment which generally mud logger does. There is always, when you drill an exploratory well, there is a mud logging unit, and they are monitoring the gas coming out of the well. When you are drilling a high formation zone, when you are drilling, you need to put certain sensors on the outcoming mud to see if there is a gas or not. If there are some traces of gas coming in the outcoming mud, that will be an indication that you may be entering a high pressure zone. Then another point is that if there is a high pressure zone you are going to come, that will be throwing the cuttings in and throwing the formation in terms of cavings. That high pressure in the formation may tend to push the walls of the hole into the well like cavings, like bigger cuttings. So a person, a derrickman or mud logger's assistant should be on the shale checkers, seeing the size of cutting, volume of cutting, shape of cutting, and he will be analyzing these cuttings to see whether we are approaching a high pressure zone. See now, driller is watching his rate of penetration. Driller or drilling engineer is watching his torque and drag. Mud logger is watching gas content in the outcoming mud. He is watching the size and shape of the cuttings. Also, they are monitoring the temperature of the outcoming mud. They are also observing the mud engineer, maybe the chloride content of the coming mud out of the well. Also, the geologist and the mud logger are observing the density of the shale cuttings which are coming up. If there is a change of trend of the shale density which the cuttings are bringing up on the surface. Also, we need to see that background gas, if there is a background gas, whether those trends are increasing or other. When you make a connection, that time a little more gas comes, so it has trends. So there will be gas alarms, there will be gas monitoring systems, the temperature is being measured, chloride content by mud engineer is being measured, cuttings and shape and volume of cuttings are being monitored, gas cut, mud and mud density is being monitored, and driller is maintaining torque, drag, and rate of penetration. So all that is being monitored, and this monitoring will tell you that you are going to enter a high pressure zone. If there is a change on shape of size of cuttings, that means you may be entering a high pressure zone. If the temperature increases, you may be entering. If the gas cut mud is coming, mud density is reducing for some reason, which is outcoming, some possibility of high pressure zone being encountered. Shale density, in as you drill deeper, shale density should increase. But if it is decreasing for some reason, that means you may be entering a high pressure zone. If the chloride content is increasing, possibility of high zone may be getting encountered. Or for driller, penetration and torque and drag can show that you may be entering a high pressure zone. That is how a drilling engineer, mud logger, mud engineer, geologist, all of them together work, monitor, and be careful about the high pressure zone and catch it and be aware of it before it creates a kick. That is the trick, and that's what a good drilling engineer should do. Okay, so again, this whole monitoring need to be done in a proper way to avoid the risk of getting a very big kick from a high formation zone. Now, these all which I discussed were warning signs. They are not sure signs. They tell there may be you are going to encounter a high pressure zone, or you may be approaching a high pressure zone. These are the warning signs. Then there are some positive signs. These signs don't give you a warning. They tell you that you have already entered a high pressure zone, which is having a pressure more than the mud density you have. If you're drilling and you're pumping some mud into the well, your ingoing mud should be equal to the outcoming mud, the rate of flow. But if the flow rate of the outcoming mud is more than the ingoing mud, that shows you have already got a kick. You have encountered a high pressure zone. Kick is already there. If your pits from where you are taking the mud and the after drilling, the same mud goes into the same pit, and that level is being maintained, and if that level is slowly increasing, that shows some influx has already entered your well. These are the symptoms which tell you that it is not a warning, it is a positive sign kick has happened. And if kick has happened, what you should do, what should be your action? So your action should be hard shut-in of the well. Like you will stop the rotating of the bit, you will pick up your Kelly, your string to a position so that your BOPs don't have any joint inside them and there is a free pipe inside the BOP. Stop pumping, close the BOP, and then open the valves which are required to be opened to record the pressures. That is what a drilling engineer does. That means there was a high pressure zone, your mud weight was not sufficient, kick came into the well, but a good drilling engineer proceeded with the hard shut-in procedure, followed this procedure, shut in the well and recorded the pressure, and these pressures will tell you how much high pressure zone is having pressure more. Hello.
I got one question if you don't mind.
Yeah, tell me, ask me.
What we can consider the shutting tubing pressure before bullheading technique if we already bleeded off the well to zero?
No, just can you repeat the question?
Consider
can
we
you-
have, consider if you don't mind, consider
Yeah.
we have a bullheading technique to kill
Okay.
the well.
Okay.
So we already bleeded off the well to zero, and we
Okay.
want to kill the well so as to squeeze the static level
Yeah.
into the perforation.
Yeah.
How
No
much
problem.
we can consider the shut-in tubing pressure?
Okay. So bullheading is one technique. I have worked on bullheading technique. I was in Kuwait and we were doing HPHT wells, and in every well there was a kick. Okay, every well, and the situation was such that we had to choose bullheading as a technique, not a normal drill killing methods. Okay, we have done that, and you have to see when you bullhead that your pressure on the casing when you're bullheading should not exceed your maximum allowable annular surface pressure. Okay, because if you exceed that, you may create a fracture in the formation at some other zone where kick is not. Is it okay? You want to squeeze the gas which has come into your wall into the formation. You don't want to lose mud from the well into the formation. Is it clear? Okay, your purpose is to push the formation
Yeah, it's
fluid
clear.
which has entered the well. Yeah,
Yeah,
so you don't want to you want to squeeze that into the well, not mud into the another fracture and lose the mud, right? So you need to check what is your maximum allowable annular surface pressure and do with tentatively keeping that in mind. Okay, is it okay?
Yeah, okay, but I said that, for example, the wellhead pressure through tubing is 10 bars.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
before nipple down the Christmas tree, we already bleed off the tubing and the annulus, and the pressure into the wellhead is 0 bar through tubing and annulus. Okay.
Okay.
So the static level of the fluid is 1,000 psi, 1,000 meters. Okay, and we want to squeeze all the liquid into the reservoir and scatter if there is some gas. So we need to calculate.
Yeah, you see what you're talking about is when Christmas tree is there, and that is when the tubing is inside, then the hole is cased. Are you understanding my point? The problem, if it is a cased hole, then there is no chance of fracturing the formation. Only perforations are open to you, and you can squeeze into. That is what we do in workover jobs. There is some gas in the well and it was flowing, and you want to do a workover job, and you push that gas with the mud or saline water or the brine. You just push it into the formation, and that is how you kill the well and start your workover operations. That is the first job.
Yeah, this is what I mean.
It's a common it's a common trend, when you are doing a workover job, this is the first job to be done before taking a workover further actions. It's normal, but I am telling you also in a drilling well, which in the of my session I may talk for 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay, just how much we can consider the tubing pressure, the initial tubing pressure? How much can we consider? 0, the shut-in tubing pressure?
No. You have to see at what pressure your formation is able to take your influx which is there in the well into it. At what pressure it goes, right? So you have to pump, and there will be certain pressure at which the influx will enter the perforations, right? It's very easy. It's not a difficult thing. In a workover job, and a hole is cased and there is only perforation, you can simply push the gas in the well into the formation. It's so simple. Every well they do it before doing any workover job. But in a drilling well, it's not. And we talk even in a well how to do bullheading in the last part of my topic today. Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyway, let the course complete and we can again take up if you have any doubt, because I will deal with this issue on the last part of my course. Okay.
Okay, if you don't mind, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will do that. And in workover operation, the first job is killing the well. You know, you maybe it seems you are from workover. In the workover, the first job is killing of the well. Then you are to take the tubing out after killing the well, and killing is by bullheading. Simply push the forming fluids into the formation. And once the brine is there in the well of the right density, then you can pull out the strain. And then you can go with the ESP or whatever change you want. You want to go with gas lift or you want to do dual tubing, whatever workover job is. Okay, clear? Anyway, so let us come back. I'm sorry, everybody, that I was distracted from the main element. So we were drilling exploratory well, and we had methods, as I said, warning signs, monitoring, to know that we are approaching a high pressure zone. Once the high pressure zone is approached, we will find that our flow rate is increasing, our mud pits are levels are increasing. That means some influx has come into the well. Once it has come into the well, we need to take an action. That means our primary well control has failed. That means mud was not sufficient. That means secondary well control need to be activated. And this is the way to activate your secondary well control. And once it is done, then you can record the pressures. Your pressures will tell you how much pressure, high pressure zone is having the pressure. These pressures at the surface will tell you, give you a hint about what is your formation pressure and how much heavy density mud you need for killing that well. Okay. All right. I'm sorry for the distraction, and let's proceed the way we are proceeding. Okay. Thank you for the question, by the way. I hope in the last we will cover everything what you need to know. Okay. Okay, BOP system. Now we will talk about what is this secondary well control system, BOP and other allied equipments which are used. So before I do that, okay, so this BOP system, just watch this and it will give you some clear idea, and then I'll discuss with you. This is a video which will give you a clear idea, and then we will proceed further.
So,
Yeah.
sir, sorry to disturb. There's no audio in this video, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
We can't hear anything.
Move the rig
Okay. Okay.
a safe distance away.
Okay. Okay. All right. So is the audio very poor?
So I think the audio was muted. We couldn't hear anything.
Okay. Good. But you could see the diagram and you can see
Yes,
the
sir.
observation. Okay.
Yes,
No
yes.
problem. I don't know. I have not muted myself, but just see. It's a few minutes more, and just see observe how BOP works.
Variable bore rams, or VBR, are special pipe rams that can close over a range of pipe sizes, such as 5-inch diameter to 3-inch diameter.
Okay. So so this was the BOP system. Is my voice audible? Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So this was this video was the animation of BOP system to give you a sense of how the BOP is for secondary barrier. If the mud as a primary barrier fails, then we use secondary barrier, which is BOP, to close the well, and we know now the well is closed. Then your first job after closing the well, and this secondary barrier is your BOP, which there will be many types of BOP, as you might have seen. RAM BOP, annular BOP, blind shear ram, blind ram, blind shear ram, depending upon different situation and act on that particular situation. If it is a very emergency situation and you are not able to control anything, you may have to shear the pipe and close the well also. Okay. And in normal conditions, you may use a annular BOP or RAM type BOP, which you have seen in the. So there are different size of BOP. There are different pressure ratings of these BOPs. They can be maybe 5,000 psi to 20,000 psi, and they may be different sizes. Depends upon the what type of hole well you are drilling. If you are drilling a very deep well, you may need some other size, and if you are drilling a very shallow well, some other size may be sufficient. And also how much is pressure at the formation pressures which you are going to encounter. So that will decide the rating of the BOP to be used. This is a diagram of annular BOP. It has a piston here, and you pump some hydraulic fluid here, which will lift the piston, and this piston will move this rubber element and close across the drill pipe and close the well. So this is one of the types of BOP, and another can be RAM BOP. It also is operated by a hydraulic fluid, and that hydraulic fluid will push some piston, and it has a ram in front of it, which has a opening, as you saw in the video, which will close across the drill pipe and can close the well. This is another type of BOP, and annular is another. These are different type of rams, like having a shape of the drill pipe, and when it is pushed, it will close the BOP. This is a shear ram. In case of emergency, to control, may have to shear the pipe, drill pipe, shear everything, and close the well by cutting the pipe with this blade. And this is another alternative which sometimes we have to choose. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is a very important part of okay, this is RAM BOP, and this very important part, which is choke manifold. If you give me your attention, I can explain you how this works. One is BOP. Once our kick has come into our well, and we have closed the well with the BOP and all secondary elements. This choke manifold, now what happens? Once the kick has come, the first job of the drilling engineer is to note down the surface pressures, how much pressures are there on your different gauges on the drill pipe or on the casing side. There are gauges. So the drilling engineer job is to note down those pressures after closing the well. Now those pressures after closing the well will tell you what is the formations pressure which you have encountered and which the formation pressure you don't know. But these surface pressures, once the kick has come and it is closed with a BOP, these surface pressures will give you an idea about the formation which you have encountered, what is the pressure of the formation, and also you can calculate from that what mud weight, which is called kill mud, you require, that heavy mud you require to put into your well, so that that high pressure formation is no more high pressure for you, so that you can drill through that formation safely without that formation kicking into your well. That is the objective of the drilling engineer. Now we have a kick into the well, and that kick has to be we cannot drill with a kick in the well, and our BOP is shut in, and our job is to get rid of that kick. So there are two elements involved in that. One is that that kick should be taken out of the well. You have to circulate that gas or influx which has come in out of the well. Number one job. Second job is to pump in a heavy mud which should have the required density which can handle that new formation which we have opened up. These are the two jobs which a drilling engineer needs to do. First, removing that gas which has already come into the well out of the well. Second, put a heavy mud into the well which should have sufficient density to handle the high pressure zone which you have encountered. And this controlled pushing, circulating out the gas out, and controlled putting of the heavy mud into the well, this whole phenomena of taking the influx out of the well and filling the hole with the right heavy mud is to be done in a controlled way. And this choke manifold, which has certain bolts called chokes, which can restrict the flow in a controlled way and create a pressure behind them, that will help us to do this process of removing the gas and putting a heavy void in a way that no more influx comes into the well. We have already some influx in the well, say 10 barrels have already come in the well. So our job is to remove that 10 barrel, number one. Number two, to put a heavy mud to the well so that it is as good enough for the new formation. And while doing that, you have to ensure that no more high pressure formation should give more influx into the well. And that controlled circulation is done through the choke manifold, which I'll explain about carrying method. This is the job of choke manifold. Okay, then there is a BOP control system. That is a system where the hydraulic fluid is stored at high pressure and can close a BOP in a minimum time of say 30 seconds, so that there is no delay and in closing the BOP, so that the influx which you encounter should be minimized. So this is a control system which is basically to close the BOP and find time within say around 30 seconds, or bigger BOPs 45 seconds. Subsea BOP, if you drill with a drill ship in the sea, then the surface, it will be deep down at the seabed, and the control system may be at the surface. So it has an advanced well control system if you are drilling with a drill ship and drilling with a deep water. So then you may need a subsea BOP. In surface drilling, you will need a ordinary BOP. Okay, so now you have detected a kick successfully, and you have closed the well successfully using your secondary well control equipments like BOP. Mud gasser is to separate the gas from the mud when we are killing the well. Okay, there are some other equipments which will be helping us, like pit volume control system, flow indicating system. They help us to detect the kill. Now, what is the well control procedure? Well control procedure is, the first job is to detect the kick. Second job is to close the well, which we have closed on the BOP. And third job is to remove the formation fluids from the well out of the well. To remove the formation fluids out of the well, that is another job. Then the fourth job is pumping the heavy mud into the well and make the well safe for drilling. Okay, let's I'll show you a video now. Before I come to drilling well control methods, just see this video. It will give you some idea, and then we can extend that further.
Welcome to the ADCO Learning from Incidents series, Well Control and Blowout Prevention. We will be sharing with you some information on well control during drilling, the various systems put in place to control a well and prevent a blowout incident from occurring. We will also review the main reasons behind some of ADCO's well control incidents which were handled successfully. Prior to the preparation of the drilling program, the asset development team submits the final well prognosis to the drilling team. The well prognosis is initiated by the petroleum engineer. The reservoir engineer then makes a planning overview and provides the required formation pressures and temperatures. Then the following data is completed: geodetic data, conceptual data, geological data, reservoir data, geophysical data, and petrophysical data. Once all the data is entered, the well prognosis will be approved by the Reservoir Operations Asset Team Leader and will be published in ADCO's system. Let's begin by explaining well control. While drilling, it is essential to perform activities in a safe way, which will prevent uncontrolled flow of formation fluids and gases from the reservoir to the wellbore and surface surroundings. This is called well control. This includes measures, practices, procedures, and equipment, workover and completion, as well as the installation, repair, maintenance, and operation of surface well control equipment. It also consists of well control barriers, which are divided into two groups: primary and secondary barriers. The primary well control barrier is the fluid column hydrostatic pressure, referred to as well bore pressure, that provides overbalance against the formation pressure. This column must be monitored and maintained during drilling and tripping to prevent formation fluids from entering into the wellbore. During drilling, if the fluid column is not maintained with adequate mud density, making the formation pressure more than the hydrostatic pressure, formation fluids will find a way into the wellbore and a kick will occur. In this case, the well must be secured and killed. There are other cases when a kick can occur. Let's review some of them. While tripping, if there is a failure to keep the hole full of mud to maintain adequate hydrostatic head, then the hydrostatic pressure will be less than the formation pressure, inducing a kick. Swabbing while pulling out of a hole too fast can produce a suction effect, resulting in a decrease in the bottom hole pressure, large enough to allow formation fluids to enter the wellbore, creating a kick. When drilling takes place too fast and into depleted reservoirs without proper enforcement, it can lead to cracking in the walls and thus losing fluids into the formation, inducing a kick. Once a kick is detected, the secondary well control barrier, blowout preventer, BOP, must be activated immediately by the driller to secure and shut the well for killing operations. This is done by closing the BOP using one of the BOP control panels, one situated on the rig floor and the second situated in the Kumi unit. The driller will shut in the blowout preventer to stop the flow of formation fluids out of the wellbore. He will activate the alarm and notify ADCO drilling supervisor and rig manager. Meanwhile, at the rig site, the on-scene commander, ADCO drilling supervisor, will notify Abu Dhabi Telecom operator and the assets control room and raise emergency tier 1, which activates appropriate emergency response teams. Unnecessary crew will be evacuated to the nearest assembly point. The next step will be to monitor the shut-in drill pipe and the shut-in casing pressure gauges. The kick will be circulated out of the wellbore using the driller method first cycle by pumping drilling fluid downstream and getting returns from the annulus through the choke line to the choke manifold. And degasser and toxic gases will be flared. Once the kick is out, the well will be shut in. Then, the well will be killed with wet mud by circulating the kill fluid until both drill pipe and casing pressures reach 0. If all of the well control barriers failed, such as human barriers, BOP equipment barriers and system barriers, and the BOP leaked while circulating the kick out, this could lead to uncontrolled flow of formation fluids and possibly a blowout.
Okay, so we have now presently, as we were talking, that there was an influx and we have closed the well by closing a BOP. And if we don't do that, and if it leaks, there can be a blowout. But anyway, let us see that we have succeeded in closing the well. So what is the job after closing the well? Once you have closed the well, then another point is whenever a drilling engineer go to his rig, he always check that when he pumps slowly, he is drilling say 100 strokes per minute pumping rate. Okay, that is the drill rate. But he always keep check on how much pressure is there when he circulates slowly, because the well, when you are killing, you will be killing at a little slower speed than your mud circulation speed. So that is why he note down these pressures beforehand. Also, he will note down how strong his formations are, so that at the time of the kick controlling, those formations should not collapse. That is why he will be doing a leak off test beforehand to know how much strong his formation is, and to ensure that while killing the well, he should not break down his formation. That is why he will keep this formation data always with him while killing a well. So now comes how to kill the well. Kick tolerance is also calculated from the data of the fracture gradient and the formation pressures. Kick tolerance is calculated, and a good drilling engineer should ensure that he should get a kick below the kick tolerance. If he gets a kick more than the kick tolerance, he will break the formation while killing the well and will create an underground blowout. That is why drilling engineers are busy calculating, once they are drilling a well, from the pore pressure data, fracture gradient data, he will know how much kick you can tolerate and ensure that the kick you get should not be more than the tolerance which you have, which can be calculated from the data which you have. So the drilling engineer is equipped with all the information to kill the well. So when he is shut in, he will note down the shut-in pressures, which will give him the idea of how much pressure is there in the new encountered formation, and how much mud weight will be required to kill that, so that you can proceed ahead with the drilling. Then there are few methods to kill the well. The main job of killing the well is that you have got an influx or kick in the well. The first job is that kick should be out. Second job is that a heavy mud, which is good enough for the new formation, should be pumped in. These are the two jobs. And if these two jobs are done separately, like first circulation, gas influx is out, and second circulation, heavy mud is put in, that is called a driller's method. In driller method, there is first circulation, taking the influx which has entered the well out of the well, and second circulation, after calculating from the surface pressures which you have seen, there will be certain calculation, and he will know what mud weight, mud density will be required for killing the well. Say in this particular example, it is 13.7 pounds per gallon. So the engineer will make the mud ready, and after the mud is ready and the influx has been circulated out, he will start pumping this heavy mud in a controlled way into the well and fill the whole well with this mud. And after this mud is put in, he can go ahead with drilling further. So this is driller method, in which first influx is taken out, and second cycle, high pressure, high mud weight, high density mud is pumped in. And then there can be other method, this is which can be weight and weight method, in which straight away you go with the heavy mud, and with the heavy mud only you can take the influx out. Straight away that heavy mud will be pumped in, and that heavy mud will push the influx, and the influx will be taken out and heavy mud will be pumped in, both at the same time. So this looks so far very simple, but let us see how much is involved in this. It's not that simple as that. The procedure which is followed is called kill sheet. If you, this is a problem, this is a well-controlled problem, well-controlled situation. If you expand your screen, you can see this is the data a good drilling engineer will be monitoring when the kick has happened. So all this data will be required by him to kill the well effectively. You can take your time and zoom it a little and see what type of data a drilling engineer requires to kill the well. He should know what is the drill string volume. He should know what is the open hole volume. He should know what is the cased hole volume. He should know what is the capacity of the pump. He should know what killing rate, at what speed he want to kill. He should know beforehand what are the pressures which will be encountered if he kills at that particular rate. That should be clear to him. He should know how much volume of mud one stroke of the pump gives. He should know clearly what is the horizontal, what is the measured depth of the well, what is the vertical depth of the well. He should know what is the measured depth of the previous casing, what is the vertical depth of the measured casing, previous casing. He should also know what is the size of the with which he is drilling. Then once he has closed the well, he should also know what is the shut-in drill pipe pressure, which he has noted down after closing the well by shutting the BOP. He should see what is the pressure on the casing side. He should observe how much pit gain he has got in his pits after the influx has entered. That will be, the pit gain will be equal to the influx which has entered from the formation. All this data will be there. Also, he will have the formation strength data, which I was telling about, leak of test and other things which he has performed earlier. So he has formation strength data. Why that data is important? So that when he will kill the well, at that time he should not fracture the formation. So he will keep, while killing the well, keep that fracture data with him, so that he can keep himself controlled and kill in a way so that no formation fracture happens while he is killing the well. So this is the data for a drilling engineer to kill the well. Then this is the first page of the kill sheet, in which he will do certain calculations. He will do some formation strength calculations. He will do certain volume calculations, so that he is clear how much is his drill string volume, how much is open hole volume, how much is glazed hole volume, how much is the bottom to the surface volume, how much is the whole cycle volume. Why? Because he is to take the influx out and he is to replace it with the heavy mud. So all these volumes are very important to him, and a drilling engineer does all these jobs on the rig. This is the most important page. In this page, the drilling engineer, from the data, surface pressure data, which he has got after shutting in the well on a high pressure zone which he has encountered. So he has got a drill pipe pressure, he has got a casing pressure, and from he knows the true vertical depth, he knows the mud density which he had been drilling before. From that calculations, he will come to know what kill density will be required for him to kill the well effectively. He also knows what is the pressure when he will slowly kill the well. So that's most important thing. I'll try to make you understand though it may not be that easy. So when he has shut in, see, he should know how much pressure will be required at slow rate. All the well will be killed at a slower rate, so that minimum pressures are there on the formations and they don't fracture. So at that slow rate circulating, how much pressure from the pump is required to make that circulation? That a drilling engineer should be clear. Say 600 psi. 600 psi say is the pressure. Just 1 minute. Okay. So say 600 is the pressure for circulating through the well at a slow rate with which we will be killing. If that is known, we know in the static condition in the well that formation is pushing into the well at the surface, say pressure of 500 in the static condition. If you get a pressure of 500 after closing the well in the static condition, that means the formation is stronger than your mud by 500 psi. That is why that formation is pushing your mud and giving at the surface 500 pressure. That means that your mud hydrostatic, your mud column is weaker by than the formation by 500 psi. Okay, so 500 is required for that, and 600 is required for circulation. So the driller will start with 600 plus 500, 600 to maintain the circulation and 500 to manage the formation, because 500 is required with the existing mud to maintain the formation, because formation is stronger than the mud weight by 500. So 500 is required, 600 required for circulation. So total 600 plus 500, 1100 is required if there is on the circulating pump. That means 600 will be taken by the circulation and 500 extra will create a pressure for the formation fluid not to enter into the well. So in a controlled way, the driller will start circulating with 1050, 600 or 500 plus 550, 1050 pressure on his pipe, and then he can go say weight and weight method. He will simply pump the heavy mud. Now the heavy mud will be pumped in, and as the heavy mud goes into the string, it will start killing the well. And when that heavy mud reach the bottom, that means that well has been killed by the heavy mud now, correct? And the surface pressure now you should get in static condition 0, because heavy mud is put, that mud is sufficient to for the formation. So you should not get any pressure at the formation at the surface when heavy mud is pumped to the bottom. So once that heavy mud is pumped to the bottom, you should not get pressure. You will have circulating pressure, which is called final circulating pressure, which can be calculated. So a driller or drilling engineer will draw a graph from the initial circulating pressure to final circulating pressure with the strokes pumped. As there are strokes to be pumped from the surface to the bottom of the well. Say 2200 strokes. In 2200 strokes, he will come down from the initial circulating pressure to final circulating pressure. So his job will be to draw a graph and to follow this graph and keep circulating and bringing your influx out and keep pumping heavy mud into the well and keep your pressure on the line of the graph. And all this control is done by the handling of the controlling of the choke manifold. That choke manifold which I talked about has a choke which can restrict the flow and create a back pressure. So there will be a circulation going on in the well passing through the choke manifold, and the drilling engineer will control the choke in a way so that his pressures will follow this graph And if this graph is followed, it will be ensured that while killing the well, while taking the influx out, while pumping the heavy mud in, no further entry of the influx will happen, and the well will be successfully controlled, and a kill mud, a heavy mud is pumped into the well, and then your pressures will fall to zero, and you can open the BOP and start drilling further. This is the job of a drilling engineer in a very short way. This is actually a 5 days course, and to explain it in 2 hours is was a little difficult. I think I have given you some sense of working of a drilling engineer, and some sense of how a drilling engineer, with the help of mud engineer, mud logger, is able to detect the high pressure formations, and how he can close the well when the high pressure formations are encountered, how he reads and what type of readings of the pressures and other elements he takes, and all the data he collects, and out of that data he will do certain processing and calculate the heavy mud weight, calculate the formation pressure, calculate the initial circulating pressure, calculate the final circulating pressure, draw the graph, and then finally circulate in a controlled way, controlling through the choke, following this graph, so that if he follows the graph, the influx will be out of the well and kill mud will be into the well. And while doing all that, no further entry of the kick or influx should happen. And this way, finally, when the kill mud is entered the well fully, then if the pressures on the both sides in static condition will be zero, and he can open the BOP and can drill further. So this is an introduction to a drilling engineer's job on the rig. I think I am over. That's all from my side. I have actually, time was going very fast and it is 1.5 hours. I have skipped through certain topics which I can now take up if you want me to take in 3 minutes more. There are few methods by which well is killed. They are driller method. In the driller method, in the first cycle, you will take the influx out, and in the second cycle, you put the kill mud or heavy mud in. If this is done in 2 cycles, it is driller method. And if it is done only in 1 cycle, pumping straight away heavy mud and taking the influx out with the same heavy mud, then in 1 cycle only well will be killed. It is wait and wait method. And in special situations, if the string is out of the well, if the pumps are not running, some power shutdown and pump failure, or your drill string is choked and you cannot circulate through your string, then another complicated method called volumetric method is also chosen. And this volumetric method we have tried in Bombay High. It takes somewhat 7-15 days to kill the well with this method. If your drill string is choked or pump failure, or you are out of the well, in such conditions, you can choose to do volumetric method. Also, there are a method called bullheading, which that person was talking in the beginning. I have tried this method in Kuwait when I was doing HPHT wells. In this method, if the influx has come into the well and your formations may be weak, or your influx may be more than your kick tolerance, and all these reasons, and you find that circulating the well, kick out the well, can break your formation, or it can create surface pressures which you may not be able to handle, then if the formations are receptive, you can pump from the top and push that influx back into the formation also. So that is called bullheading technique, which I have used myself in almost every well when we drilled in KOC Kuwait, and this is one of the alternative technique which can be used, but for that formation should be receptive to the kick, to take the kick. So then if the kick comes, you need not circulate the kick out and everything. You simply close the BOP and pump at high pressure mud in, and that will push the kick back into the formation, and after a certain further calculations, finally you will be able to kill the well on the BOP and drill further. So this bullheading is one of the unconventional methods of killing. So we have volumetric and bullheading as unconventional methods, and driller method and weight method as regular methods. Now there are companies which will be using weight and weight method. Some companies prefer to use driller method. All that depends upon what is your well design, where is your casing, where is the formation which has pressure. If it is exploratory well, then it may be different, that you don't know anything about the formation and its pressures, and your casing policy will be guided by your geological information. And if it is a production well, then you know what formations are there and what pressures they have, and what are the fracture gradients, and accordingly you will choose a casing policy. So depending upon your casing policy, how much open hole you will have, what will be that depth of the well, all that will decide which particular method will be more useful to you. Also, if suppose barite, which is the loading and content for making the mud heavy, is not available or all that, so then there can be other situational reasons we may decide which particular method will be useful for you, driller method or weight and weight method out of the circulating methods. Or some companies, in some conditions, volumetric method, if the drill pipe is choked and all that. And some companies may use bullheading as their method, as that boy in the beginning who asked the question. I think this is all from me. And if you have any question, you can ask me. Thank you.
Yes, again, can I speak?
Yeah, you can speak now.
Yeah, back to my question. As I said, workover operation, we need to bullhead the well. So we nipple down the Christmas tree. So before nipple down the Christmas tree, we bleed off the well through tubing and annulus until pressure comes to zero. Then set BPV and nipple down Christmas tree with the adapter. And before, so rig up the unit, then start bullheading the well. So what is the required? Bullheading. So normally the static level is 1,000 meters. So we try to displace the fluid straight ahead to the perforations with some amount to keep the well sucking. So. So what's the proper method to calculate the tubing and annulus, so the bullheading volume required to kill the well? This is first question.
Okay.
And second question, just after a few hours, the well becomes alive. So we need to make continuous fill up 2 to 3 barrels per hour to make the well still sucking and safe.
Okay.
So some people, some people say that this continuous fill up, the 2 or 3 barrels, is the seal displacement. Whatever are pull out of hole or run and hold the completion. Others say that the reservoir is already aspiring, sucking some amount.
Okay.
So how to calculate this continuous fill up, which is 2 or 3 barrels per hour, according to the seal displacement and the reservoir aspiration. So what we call sucking some amount.
Yeah. Understand.
Due
So
to the
that,
bullheading
okay.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the two question, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the job is, see, I have a tubing and I have a packer in the tubing, suppose. Okay. All right. So my first job will be that through the tubing, I will pump brine or whatever density brine we will know from the formation. When you are producing from a well,
Yeah,
you know
Brian,
what is what.
1.03.
Yeah, so you know what density of brine is required to kill the well. Okay, then through the tubing you will pump the brine and you will push all the formation fluids into the formation through the perforations. Okay, you have done that. Clear? Once you have done that, and your annulus is already filled with a brine of the required density, all right, below above the packer, then you will circulate and ensure that your hole is full with a brine which have a density more than the formation pressure. So no more entry of the fluid will be there to the well. Okay, there can be, now when you are pulling out, you should know exactly how much steel volume you are pulling out, and that much of well will be empty and you need to fill that. If there is a discrepancy in that, that can be because of that well sucking which you are calling, which may be that some mud brine may be losing into the formation, and there can be some fall of fluid level because of that. So you need to know how much volume of the string when you are pulling out, and exactly that volume should be going down in the trip tank. Okay, if it is going more, that means some type of well is sucking or going into the perforations. Okay,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
thank you. Any more question? Excuse me. Okay. See, I again tell you that it is a 5 days course. I have somehow congested it to 1.5 hour course. Okay, so that I give some sense of all that. And main point is to give you an idea about a drilling engineer's job. Okay, while how he drills, how he monitors, how he works together with different other engineers, mud engineer or mud loggers, and how he detect how the kick comes, and once the kick come, what type of actions he takes, and once the well is shut in, what type of observations he makes, and out of those observations, what type of calculation he need to do, and while killing the well, what type of control system he need to manage, like the graph he drew, and he will circulate in a controlled way and control the choke on the choke manifold so that his pressures are falling on that graph which he has made. And if he does all this in a proper controlled manner, then he can take the influx out successfully and pump in the heavy kill mud into the well, and take care that he doesn't break the formation while doing all that, and successfully kill the well with pressure 0 and kill mud in the well. He can start drilling further. That's the job.
Dr. Kumar?
Question? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forget to ask my third question, which is I already told you in the beginning of the course.
Okay.
According to situation, I just said to you, we already bled the well and we start to bullhead. So what? How much we can consider the initial tubing shut-in tubing pressure?
Okay, so when you have shut in the well, so you will be having in the tubing, say there is a packer in the annulus. Okay, so in the tubing there is a gas.
No packer in the annulus. It's no packer in the annulus. It's just for a half USP completion. The into random hole into 958 casing string, then the top of
Yeah.
liner 7-inch is too low, below the.
Oh,
the
okay.
edge.
Okay. You are taking output from the tubing only, or you are producing from the annulus also? You are
No, no,
producing.
we are producing through tubing, but we
Very
have workover
no pecker,
operations.
no pecker, no pecker.
No,
So
no
on the
pecker, no
annulus,
pecker.
no pecker. So there the pressure on the annulus surface will be depending upon the fluid in the annulus. Okay, and fluid in the tubing, if you are producing gas, suppose. So in the fluid in the tubing there will be gas, and when you have closed the valve before pumping the bullheading, the surface pressure will be the formation pressure minus the hydrostat head of the gas column in the tubing. Or if it is oil, then hydrostatic of the oil. If it is gas plus oil mixed, then it will be hydrostatic of the oil and gas mixed, and surface pressure will be formation pressure minus the mixed oil and gas hydrostatic pressure. That will be the shut-in pressure.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, excuse me, my dear. The point is discussing on like this is rather difficult. Okay, I am sure you are not able to explain fully exactly, and I am not able also to do in such type of communication. Okay,
No,
and
you
what
have
you are
already
saying,
explained very well. Thank you already.
yeah. So
I got
I
the
may
answer,
not be
yeah.
getting. Yeah, okay. So I have done a lot of workover jobs also, and first job is to bullhead, and it is a normal process. Why it is not so much a heavy job? Because the only perforation is open and formation is not exposed, so you can easily pump the influx into the formation. It's easy. But in the drilling well, it is not that easy, because while bullheading the influx back into the formation, you may fracture at some other place. That is the main point to be considered, and it is a very tentative and careful job to be executed. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who is shy to ask? Anybody? Organizers?
I think, sir, we can end now. I think there is no more questions.
Okay. All right. It would have been my pleasure to answer the questions, but if there is none, thank you.
If anyone of you have any query,
Yeah, any question, we can talk about that. Particularly one who are in this business, or petroleum engineers and all that.
I think we can end now, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.